Thompson from the Delegate Wranglers, the event industry's most engaged community. Welcome to another DW live show. When this week we'll be looking at the murky world of PR with Alistair Turner from 8PR. And as usual, I'm joined by my co-host and the person who produces the show, Dominic from Stream. Say hello, Dom.
The person panicking in the background, wondering why Facebook wouldn't connect today. How are you, Neil?
Yeah, I'm good. You okay?
Yeah, I'm all good, thank you. I'm all good. Looking
How are
forward
we
to
looking
this
in the chat room?
Yeah, we're looking good. I'm looking forward to this one today. Let's should we do a couple of hellos?
Yes, please.
So we have, as always, we will say hello to Denise Cunningham. Hi, Anika. Welcome back again. Felicity, nice to see you. Who else we got? Avatar, nice to see you, Avatar. Your joke on Facebook the other day about your own name made me laugh. We might share that one later. It was really funny. Emma Cartmel. Oh, nice to see you, Emma.
Hi, Emma.
Dominic, I thought it was me. No, it wasn't you. It was Facebook, not you, and it wasn't us either. And Ben says, hello, everyone. Greetings from Bournemouth. And Raymonda Richardson, hello, everyone. Greetings from sunny Reading. So we have Bournemouth and Reading as the contenders for furthest afield so far. If you can beat it, let us know. Where are you watching? What are you doing? How are you spending your day, apart from spending the next half hour, 40 minutes or so with us? Let us know where you are, who you are, and what you're doing.
Yeah. So don't forget, guys, to send in any questions for Al to either myself or to Dom or in the chat room or to Diane in the DM. And we'll get those questions over to Al as well. Absolutely. So we're going to be talking to Alistair in a second about the future of PR, what it looks like coming out of this crisis, and the things you can be doing and shouldn't be doing. Al's going to give you some great tips. But before we go ahead, I'd just like to do a couple of shameless plugs.
Shameless plug
the first
away.
One is for... Yeah, here we go. The first one is for our YouTube channel. I know we've got quite a few. We've got 10, 13 people watching at the moment. It'd be a massive help if you could subscribe to that and click on the notification button, and you'll never miss out on a show. Then it'll always tell you when there's one coming.
On the screen right now, Neil. Where is it? I'm just trying to get my bearings on the camera. It's somewhere around there. It says at the Delegate Wranglers. If you look on YouTube, you will find the Delegate Wranglers. Please subscribe, because it will really help Neil build this community in every possible social circle.
Absolutely. And then the second huge plug is for our DW Lockdown Social, which is our first virtual social we've ever done, which is taking place this Thursday night. We had a meeting about it earlier, which was really interesting, wasn't it, Dom? We got some amazing.
It's going to be really good. We can't say anything. All I'm going to say is it's going to be really good.
Mad.
It would be very nice if it all went according to plan. We got a couple of real treats for everybody that joins. So, but please join if you're able to. Please join us, Neil. How can they get details?
Yeah, we're the site. We've basically got a registration site for it, because we only want kind of Delegate Wranglers to attend. So if you head over to that, it's on our partners events case. If you look on the group, you can find the link on there. But I'll also put it in the wrap up afterwards as well. But we'd love as many of you.
And if Di's watching, perhaps you can drop the link in the comments below for anyone that hasn't already registered.
Yeah, great idea. We've got over 100 people registered already, so
it's going to be really good.
Dominic's sweating there with all the technical issues.
As we discovered, less my issue on Thursday. Very much more Chrissy's.
It'll be fine. Anyway, so let's get into it.
Who have we got today?
We've got Alistair Turner from 8PR. Alistair, hello. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, hi Neil. How you doing? You all right?
Yeah, I'm really good. Can you hear us okay? Yeah.
Yeah. All good. Thanks, buddy.
Fantastic. So we thought it would be a really good idea, Al, to get you on the show to talk about, the PR aspect and the PR outlook of all what's going on, and the wider event industry in general. So before we go ahead with that, do you want to tell us a bit about your background, how you got into PR, how long you've been running 8PR, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so I won't do too many shameless plugs, but
plug away.
Agency that works solely within the events space, and it has done for the last 5 years, 5 years in August, and that's the whole of the event space. So that's from major conferences to festivals in fields to everything in between. So we're what's called in the jargon of PR people a specialist agency. So that's me, but there's plenty online about that. Beforehand, I guess what's probably relevant to this conversation is before the 5 years, I've got about 15 other years working in the PR industry before that as well. And that's been all sorts of things. I cut my teeth with BBC Worldwide. I actually was involved in the relaunch of the Bill and Ben and the Flower Pot Men, I'll have you know. I was
Wow, really?
the relaunch, I'm not that old. I was once described as Bertie Bassett's right-hand man because I was PR Bassett, and I used to work for people like Haagen-Dazs and things like that as well. When PR was glamorous, I was right in the thick of it. But I guess what I take from that is an understanding of brand and the power of brand. And I kind of, even in the events industry now, that's something that stayed with me. But I've also, and probably relevant to this conversation, is throughout my career, I've done a lot around crisis comms. PR is one of those things that can sometimes be referred to flippantly and as a luxurious good, but sometimes when things go horrifically bad, you realize just how important having a PR.
The real value. Yeah. The real value.
No, I'm going to jump in just very briefly. Immediately, Jan said, "I love Bill and Ben. I am that old." But I'm gonna say now, if you're watching and you've got a question as we go through, if you've got a question that comes up specifically around managing PR, managing communications in this transition from crisis to calm, as the title of the show suggests, please drop it in the comments and we will come to you.
Yeah. Just to say as well, we've got a couple of people on YouTube saying hello. Helena and Amy, hello. Thanks for tuning in. One from sunny Barcelona and one from sunny Glasgow.
And Jane Watkins from EventWorks Europe is in Herefordshire. She tried to throw me off track with the Europe bit, but actually she's in Herefordshire. So I think she qualifies currently. Oh no, Barcelona qualifies currently. As
Barcelona, yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. So sorry, Alistair, you were saying about what convinced you to kind of move into events? From having that kind of full rounded one, the media kind of side, into events only.
I guess it was the way of traffic really within the events, within the PR space, is that specialism is important, and it's something I've found very dear to me when looking at any form of marketing. I think if you're an agency, you need to try and immerse yourself in the industry and the community that you're marketing to. Otherwise, you're just an outside gun. I got into the events industry. It did what it does to everyone. It tagged me. It wrapped me up. It made me feel great. I've never been able to let go. I've never wanted to let go. And I've built a really nice company off the back of the events industry's kindness and generosity. And I love it to bits. So that's how I got into the events industry. And I guess what I did like about the events industry from the outset was how, I know it sounds weird, but there's lots of associations. So you could join them. You could engage with them. You were out there doing things. It was before things like this existed, the Delegate Wranglers, but even the success of you guys shows it's an industry that wants to collaborate, wants to get together. That's a PR man's dream. The ability to get into communities and affect them, and bring messages into them, that's really powerful. So that's it suited me as someone that loves PR and someone that learned to love events as well.
Yeah. So obviously, the elephant in the room is the COVID crisis.
Yeah.
And it's probably a lot of the reason why people are tuning in today, because, they wanted some advice and they want to know, what are good, or some tips for handling the PR side of what they're going through. Because it's affected, the thing about this is it's affected every single side, every single facet of the industry. So what's your take on it? How the kind of industry's handled it so far? Has there already been any kind of big mistakes? I don't want you to name names or anything, but, have you seen some things that you think, ooh, and then other things that have been handled really well?
Yeah, I think let's look at the positive side of what is essentially a pretty horrific way. What I do love about events is how decisive they are and how decisive people in events are. PR is always seen as being quite a fluffy grey area thing, and it works because it sits in that area. But with an event, it's either happening or it's not. It's either on or it's not. You're either there or you're not. And there is a level of decisiveness that certainly I've witnessed within my own clients, but certainly outside of my own clients and out there in the space, of how decisive business has been. I think that's really important, because I think one of the things that I hear a lot of, and I get quite frustrated by, is this idea that we don't know. And we don't know. We really don't know. And I think what happens is, if you get lots of people within an industry not knowing things, then that perpetuates and it becomes panic. I think what good brands do, what good companies do, is they put certainty into uncertain situations, and they carry their brand through that. So I think the best examples of that is the people that have said, we are cancelling, we are closing, we are moving, we are delaying, but they've come out early and addressed it early. And I think that's been a really, really powerful thing. I think the ones that perhaps haven't quite got it right are the ones that have, for right reasons, don't get me wrong, who have dithered, who have tried to wait, who have lost momentum because of it. And because of that, they've created confusion, and probably none more so than with their own customers.
Yeah. It's really difficult at the moment as well, isn't it? Because there's no kind of set of instructions on how to deal with all this, and everybody's having to deal with different things on the fly. In terms of the big one. I mean, again, the other elephant in the room is the contract side. When people have booked an event, and a small venue, might have to say, well, I'm sorry, we can't give you money, we can't give you your deposit back, because we won't exist otherwise. It's a really difficult situation for both sides, isn't it?
I think there's I've got just a quick plug is we've done a little crib sheet for that I think you guys are going to share at the end of it.
We're going to share it, yeah.
It's called First Principles Thinking Around Public Relations, and I think the first one is that PR should never, or communication should never, wag the dog. We have to support the business's objectives, not vice versa. So whatever happens, it has to be a business case, and I think it's really important to understand that. So I think if we're looking at what an event should do fiscally or insurance policies, it has to be that business size first, and the communication has to support that around it. One of the ones that we've been talking about that I won't name is I work with a number of sporting clients as well. And some of those, well, the majority of those events are in the summer period. And a lot of it has been about, shall we cancel? When shall we cancel? We've got people that want their money back, all those sort of things. And one of the things that we took a brave decision, but I think, it turned out to be a correct decision, was we said very clearly to the audience of that event was that we will give you your money back if you want it. If everyone asks for their money back, we will go under and we will not have an event next year. More importantly, you won't have an event next year.
And how was that received?
Thank goodness for my contract, my relationship with the client and the event. Actually, it went really, really well. And I think it went really, really well for two reasons. One was the fact that we understood who our event was aimed at. We understood both the emotional side of who they were. The event organisers themselves knew that audience incredibly well personally. We also understood the demographics of that event. So we understood where they were in terms of, we could understand that, a 50 quid ticket didn't mean someone on an ABC ratio, whether it would be on a slower ratio. So there was a science involved in that. So we understood it from that point of view. The reason why we did really, really well with those is we made it a joint decision with our community. We shared everything. We didn't try and BS them. We didn't try and coerce them. We just gave them a choice. And I think what we did was we gave them certainty of outcome. And I think because of that, people took a good choice around it,
Yeah, you know what? The word that springs to mind with me, what you've done there, and I know it's something we want to touch on, is honesty. You were kind of really honest with them. You kind of told them the cold, hard truth that, you can have it, but this is what's going to happen. And I know, it's something that me and you were talking, a couple of days ago about the difference between, politicians doing that classic PR thing of bridging, I think you call it, where they kind of answer another question with another question and avoid, deflect it. And it's actually all right to be honest, isn't it? And not have all the answers and, be more human, if you like.
I mean, I think there's a number of things there. I think, first of all, the reason why I think politicians have to do that, and I do think it's not just their fault, I think it's the fault of the media as well, is because they are not in control. So what they're trying to do is seizing back control. They're not on the front foot, they're on the back foot at that point of view. So what they're doing is they're deflecting because they're not in control of a situation. What I advocate for, and again, it's on the crib sheet, is that every business has the right to control its communication. So what we wanted to do is not wait for our customers to come to us. We wanted to go to them straight off and say, look, this is the issue we have. Come to you first and foremost. And the third thing, like you say, is that we're going to do it really, really honestly, because what we're not in the interest of is trying to deceive anyone. This is a community thing. These people are important to the livelihoods of everyone that works on that event. and there is a tacit relationship between the two that's acknowledged, and it's fair. And you get this a lot in sporting events as well as other sort of events, but especially in sporting events, there is a partnership there that you can work with as part of the communications there. I mean, I do think honesty it seems strange. So PR's got such a bad reputation of being sort of spinners and blaggers and things like that. I just think honesty is the biggest commodity at the moment that business can have.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to jump in. I mean, Dom, you can give a couple any more hellos in the group, or I can jump in. But I've got a question that we've been sent in by Rebecca. Hi, Rebecca from Monaco Tourist Authority.
I think take the question that you've got, and we'll go to comments in just a second, mate.
Okay, sure. So basically, Rebecca asks, what message? Rebecca looks after a destination, herself in terms of Monaco. Yeah. So what message destination should communicate first in the next few months? Activities in green open spaces, the safety measures, how you can use flights, or is it all of these things? It's a really, really tough one, isn't it, to negotiate?
First of all, it's a really good question from people that I think could probably give lessons in marketing a lot better than me. So I appreciate the question, first of all. For me, we talk a lot at 8PR about empathetic marketing, which sounds very strategic and very, very cloudy. But essentially, what is it that we need to talk to our customers about, our communities about, that shows that we empathize with the situation they're in at the moment? So again, if I'm a destination, I guess what I want to be doing is putting some confidence, some reassurance, and some information into the marketplace that will give them confidence to come to me as and when this thing comes to an end. And I think that's about confidence to buy. I think that's what that's about. So if we're sitting there talking to our customers, which I'm assuming is people on the Delegate Wranglers feed, what are they worried about at the moment? What are the things that are keeping them up at night about the moment? And how can me as a destination or as a brand servicing them make their lives that little bit easier? And I think when we look at creative ideas within 8, we always look at that sort of point of view, which is how can we do things that help the customer in their day-to-day lives, and because of that, become loyal to us.
Yeah. She also said, what do you think people want to hear first, and what platforms would they use? Social media, magazines, press, webinars. I guess a combination of the lot, but you can get that out to people via social media, immediately, instantly.
I think, look, the reality is, hey, look, we're A, on an amazing community, and B, on an amazing platform that's reaching those audiences. So I would never choose one ahead of the other. I think good marketeers look at their marketing mix, and because they understand the profile of their audiences, can prioritize between social or traditional, depending on what they are, where they are. I mean, I must say, without blowing too much smoke, online is a very good place to hit the demographic of an event organizer at the moment if I was a destination. So I know where I'd be looking personally. In terms of the sort of messages first, so once we've reassured our audience, once we're giving them information, I do think that basic safety concern first, but then I'd be looking to take them back to what their event's going to feel like again. How we used to do before this all happened. It is about green spaces. It is about nice convention centers and nice venues and places and things like that. And you can adjust your message.
Reminding people about it, really.
We need to remind them why they have the event in the first place. Why do conferences and events like to travel? Why do they like to go to destinations like Monaco? Why do they like to go on the road? It's because it's enriching. So let's not forget about the value of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you want, Dom? Sorry, over to you.
I'm actually going to jump in because I don't know if he'll stay on for very long, but my very good colleague, Ed Bantock, is currently watching. So, hi, Ed. It's nice to see you, and I will reply to your message as soon as we finish this.
Did he come on there and just say, reply to your email?
No, it just popped up that he was watching, but I thought I'd give him a mention. Jane has commented, everyone is currently on their phone. That's where I go. Who doesn't check LinkedIn, Twitter, WhatsApp, and Facebook at the moment?
It's in terms of messaging,
in terms of messaging and comms.
I think just to add into that, one of the things that I'm again, we talk a lot about 8 is actually, I wrote a blog some time ago, but I called it 140 to 1,400. This was when Twitter was 140, not 280. It was this idea is there's two sorts of ways of talking to someone. There's the staccato fire quick information, and there's the longer form information. So what you have social media is really, really good at the staccato fire stuff. If you want to get out messages quick, phones and things like that, it's a quick information grab. But if you look at the success of places like TED, the success of things like podcasting and things like that, people do want a longer form. Actually, even what we're doing now, that longer form of information coming through is really important as well. It's the middle ground that's slightly being lost at the moment, but I would never stray away from that longer form, because once you've got them engaged, once they're interested in what you've got to say, you've got to explain it. You've got to take them on journeys. You've got to be really.
You've got to be interesting, haven't you, as well? Exactly. You've got to get, you've got to get their attention.
Mm. I find it really interesting because as kind of coming at this from another angle, which is from the service provider side, this whole difference in that long or short form of communications is slightly, and how we're talking about that with clients is slightly contradicted by this show, because typically when we're working on events with people, we are running and suggesting that they run maybe 7 to 10 minutes. So the slightly more snappy presentations, the TED style of presenting. But as you rightly point out, and I only considered this a couple of days ago, the very nature of this show is the fact that it's longer form and people are engaging with it. But it perhaps goes to show that whether it's the content, the form, the message, whatever it is, there is an ability to communicate through long form messaging online. But it's not going to work for everybody. It's not going to work for everything.
And I think what it does, Vienna, a lot of what I used to do in the early stages, and certainly PR and marketing as a whole has evolved, because there is such a breadth of media out there. We've got so many choices. We get to choose which one we use. And the phrase I use a lot is wastage. Yeah. I would rather talk to 1,000 people that are direct potential customers of my client in a long form basis than try and hit absolutely everyone. In short, I'd rather sit in front of us guys in front of who we're talking about than be on ITV News tonight, because I know that there might be 9 million people watching ITV News, but I don't know how many of them are event organisers. In fact, I'm pretty sure there ain't that many.
Yeah, you know what? It's very true. And I've been listening to a lot of podcasts and a lot of video tutorials about marketing to the one or to the many. Yeah, and you're better targeting, 10 really targeted people who are super interested in what you do, rather than 1,000 who might be, kind of thing.
There's another. I do quite a lot of work in terms of the communications around specific events, especially around trying to get sponsors. And I think when you're marketing your event, one of the things you want to do is market to your existing customers almost as a priority and not go outside of them. It's the same as sponsorship. You want to keep your fans as close fans as possible instead of trying to go outside of that and potentially watering down the value of your community. If you've got a really good community, it will market you for you. If you're that good, it will market you for you. So actually, what PR people and marketing people have kind of retreated from is trying to hit absolutely everybody, but trying to find the right people in the right places and bring them gently into a wider community. Yeah. And I think again, going back to the crisis comms and what it looks like going forward, it was the strength of that communities that allow us to make good decisions around sensitive things like event cancellations, people's hard-earned money, venue and event organizer relationships. It's the strength of that community that actually holds dear.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, absolutely.
It's a really tough one. I mean, and I guess something that's probably going to be quite pertinent to a lot of people, and some of the people watching will be, I own a venue. I'm in this situation where we're closed and we've had to cancel all our events, and we've refunded some people or we've not. What is there any kind of tips and advice to going forward? From this point onwards. I know we know all the things about keeping in touch with people. Are there any kind of PR tips and any kind of, let's not call them PR, but marketing things that people could be doing?
Do you know what? It was something. I heard James Reese Icker talk. We were at an event just before the close down when we knew this was coming. And he gave a very short speech where he just said, "This is going to be." I'll paraphrase. This is going to be dark. This is going to be difficult. But if we remember to get along well with each other and be decent human beings to each other, we will be okay. And I know that's a very PR thing to say, but actually, whatever happens, if you go in with the right sort of attitude and not combative, which we've seen at the moment in the industry, then it's a very different conversation, and it can be handled differently from a comms perspective. I know there'll be tough negotiations. I know there's horrible deals being done. I know there's some pretty bad examples of worst practice going on out there. And I think it's the ones that act decently, the ones that are actually, being, proud to their own brand values, they're the ones that will come out better. Because my thinking is, you don't always want someone to like you as a brand. What you do want is them to understand you as a brand. Yeah. And like we say, when you're entering a difficult conversation, you're not asking them to give you an in. You're just understanding them. You want them to understand where you're coming from.
Absolutely. Just let me jump in on that, because I've got a really good example of that. So there's and they definitely won't mind me quoting them, because I think they're brilliant. But there's a hotel called Glenfall House, which I think I mentioned it to you the other day, Alistair. Yeah. What they're doing is, I think they're a kind of small country house hotel, and obviously they've had to cancel all their weddings. I think they exist for a lot of weddings and things like that. But they've been sending messages on Instagram to the brides and bridegrooms who were going to get married, and saying, "We're really sorry you can't be here. We're looking forward to welcoming you back next year." And it's really hard. You understand it, because it's really heartfelt. Yeah. And I think it's just a brilliant thing they're doing, because their customers must feel really connected with them. Like, it actually means something to them as well. It's really hurting them as well that's cancelled.
I think it's time to put down the corporate PR talk and start talking as human to human. And I think, especially when things are like that, and I think you're right, it does resonate when it feels like it's coming from a person that cares. It definitely comes from that sort of side. I think that really works. Really works. I'm a massive advocate of it.
Yeah. We've got a couple of questions there, Dom.
A couple of comments more than anything. Although it's kind of a question, I'm not sure if we can answer it or not. Anika said, I read the other day that physical events will become premium and be pushed to exclusive access, as they will need to be smaller. Do you agree? I'm not sure if I agree personally. I'm not sure if I agree on that at all. Conversations that I'm having with clients really dramatically vary. But I think at the moment it can only be opinion, because that's one area we don't know how that's going to come back at the moment.
I mean, as someone that's worked for 20 years in PR and understanding publics and relations and audiences and relations and the psychology behind that, plus someone who's spent the last 15 years working in the events industry, I've got to say, I'd put my money on the events industry and live coming back quite generally. We have a need to come and meet as a live thing. A great example of that is if you take the Fortnite events, the Epic Games Fortnite events. It's astonishing that they can get 12 million people all watching a DJ at the same time.
Yeah.
What I found specifically poignant about that was within a couple of weeks they wanted to do it live. So this wasn't a live event going online. This was an online event that was perfectly successful, that felt a need to go and be live. Again, if you look at the people that are spending mostly in the events industry, that are really doing some amazing things, they're all online people, because they understand that, social media, digital conversion, all of those sort of things need to have a live element, because you've just got to shake someone's hand. You've got to look them in the eye every now and again. And I think that's what's going to carry us through.
We can learn quite a lot from the esports arena,
Oh, it's something that again, with a client of ours, we've been doing a huge amount of research in around esports, and actually, I, as well as being from 8PR, I also write the IBTM Global Trends Report, and actually, we did an entire chapter on esports and what we can learn from them as a young industry looking to engage. It was really interesting,
huge. Sharon said, start referral marketing with chosen people who you educate about your business. You reciprocate by doing the same. Build a tight referral network. These are great tips. Thank you. And Denise Cunningham said, authentic kindness and compassion is what communications need to switch to right now.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more with both of those points. I think one of the funky statements at the moment is influencer marketing. I think if you want to influence someone, you've got to develop an emotional connection to them. You can't just show them the shoe. You've got to tell them how to run. And I think that's where we're doing really good stuff.
I like that one. I like that saying, Alistair. I'm gonna claim that as my own.
No, I've got it on video. You definitely didn't say that.
I've stolen many a line off many a people that you can have karmic rebalancing.
I was just going to say, so how do you see the future? I mean, I'm not asking you to look into a crystal ball, but, do you see us kind of coming out of, I know we just touched on it, but do you see us coming out of recovery, towards the end of the year, smaller events slowly creeping back, then hopefully obviously once you get legislation from the government and stuff?
Yeah, first of all, I think there's a macro and a micro here. And I think, so what's great, we've got our trade associations firing shots and bullets and activity at government, and I wish them the very best of luck. And by the looks of it, they're doing an astonishingly good job. So let's fingers crossed that they do that. Then we've got people like Microsoft and people like that saying, actually, we're not going to hold events until next year. Okay. Exhibition markets being in trouble, festival markets pretty much writing off a summer. But I think these are the marquee events. We're looking at Glastonbury. We're looking at, big events. We're looking at big marquee stuff. Actually, what is the bread and butter? I was talking to an agent the other day, a very, very big agency, and what he said is the majority of their events are between about 80 and 120 people. These smaller conferences are actually the bread and butter of what we do. And those things can happen. Yes, they'll still be difficult, but even training. Actually, I was looking at some research recently about the training market coming back in. Small meetings, small rooms, small things. That's the energy of a young hotel group or a young venue group or a smaller group. It's not all about the big convention centers. And yes, their time will come. But actually, if we can see the market, that younger market stimulated and fight for it and represent it and talk about it as a key part of what we do, I think there's some really, that's where I think the excitement comes. We don't have to write off the year just yet.
Yeah, I was just going to say as well, something that might have to almost happen is, a 200-bedroom hotel might have to become, for a 50-person meeting, almost like a buyout. Because 50 people can come in and, have that space to be able to have breakfast and then to have the meeting in the conference room because of the size difference. Certainly at the moment anyway. Who knows what will, things might change by kind of September, October.
But what I think is the best PR I feel that's going on in the industry is the groups that are showing that out there now, who are turning around and saying, this is what that looks like.
Yeah.
We're not waiting for the event organizer to come and say, look, this event has to happen. I need it to happen. How are you going to help me? They're saying, this is what it looks like. This is what food's going to look like. This is what social distance is going to look like. This is how.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And I think they're the ones that, again, they are putting certainty into an uncertain market.
Because I look at those and go, they're fantastic. Look at that. That's amazing. I really love what they're doing. I feel positive vibes towards those chains who are doing that kind of thing.
Well, it's empathetic as well, isn't it? It goes back to that empathetic thing. They're not sitting there saying, look at our fantastic new AV screens or look at our wonderful new chef who's just come in and is going to... They're saying, this is how we're going to help you do your job.
Yeah.
Mandy Jennings, Human to Human. We had a really interesting example of an association client who said to us, if we cancel our annual event this summer, we'll have to shut our association down altogether and go bankrupt. This was so truthful. We worked together with the venue to explain, please can you help them, or there's going to be no winners here, venue, agency or client. We managed to sort this due to a great approach and compassion and empathy from all. We're all winners in the end.
Yeah, spot on.
That's brilliant.
It's a really nice example. Really nice example.
I just to interject, one of the things that I learned really early on, and I still think it's a wonderful way of describing what PR is. And then the PRCA call it the result of what you do, what you say, and what others say about you.
Yeah.
Two things about that. One is the fact that PR is a result of something. It's not an activity. It's something that ends in good PR. The second thing is just notice really, really stand out is the first one, which is the result of what you do. So you can get people like me to come and spin things around and lie for you if you want, or you can just be a really good business and do things in a really good way. You find out you'll save a lot of money on a PR agency. I think it's really important. You've got to start there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, spot on. Another comment from Denise.
Another question in from Denise. She says, do you think we'll need to increase the amount of clear, authentic event communications, especially around health and safety, to encourage delegates to events when they open back up?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, I think, again, if I look at what good communication does, is it reassures people. And I think there's a lot of reassurance needed out there at the moment. I think one of the things, again, me and Neil, we were talking about this the other day. If you remember, it happened so quickly, the lockdown, but actually, with the first thing that went wasn't venues closing. It was actually delegates stopping coming to events. It was those big companies with thousands of employees that turned around and said, "No, stop coming out."
Yeah.
So if we get those back first, that's going to help the event organizer, that's going to help the venue, that's going to help everyone else happen. So I think they're a major strategic target.
That's a good it's a good litmus test, isn't it, for the industry of that as well. And one other thing to notice as well is, unlike say a hotel's website or anybody's website, the health and safety stuff is normally down at the bottom. It's suddenly going to be elevated to front and center.
Yeah.
It's going to be a complete change.
Sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say one of the things that I think event organizers are superb at is making people feel good in crowds. Do you know what I mean? They can do that. This is. It was funny. It was something that I think some of the top cheeses were having with government, which is this events industry is better qualified than supermarkets or anyone else to actually work crowds safely. That's what we do. And I thought it was a brilliant point. And actually, we can reassure them this is what we do. We not only can we keep you safe, we can give you a great time, a great experience, an interesting experience, and keep you safe at the same time. I think it's a great message.
Very true.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the interesting things here is that yet again, communications is the key to the future. And keeping that empathetic and keeping it human. But actually, if we think back, Neil, to all of the shows that we've done since we started this, I can't even remember when it was, end of March.
Back in March, yeah.
The common theme throughout it, especially with the transition to online events, and then particularly when we talked about the experience of online events, communications was the key subject that came out of all of it. It was, if you're going to transition your event to an online event only, you've got to communicate. You've got to get your comms right around that. Talk about why you're moving it online. Talk about how you're moving it online, and then stay in touch with people. When we moved later then to the experience of online events, it was about making sure that you're regularly communicating with people to make them to help them understand how the event's going to work on the day, or what they can expect, how they can engage with the various aspects of that event. And now coming out, as we start to look forward to coming out of it, communications is key again, because you've got to keep in touch with people. You've got to keep it empathetic. You've got to let people know what to expect and what's going to happen. And it's been the recurring theme right the way throughout this. And it gets communication from a small business, communications largely gets forgotten, right? And we all need to do better at doing that. But it has been this recurring theme throughout this whole episode, is get the comms right, and it will probably help everyone long term.
Well, I remember, I think it's a really, really good point, but I remember, I think it was in a presentation that we did, which was give me a community and I'll give you an event. And I think the idea is, because we're all in, it was Seth, the guy whose name I've forgotten. He wrote a book about tribes and tribalism and things like that. This idea that more and more we are being networked by our interests, more and more we're being networked by things that are more than our geography. Yeah. And what that does is it creates events absolutely everywhere. People that are interested in comics, there's an event. People that are interested in football, there's an event. People that like esports, there's an event. And I think if you're going to have a community, then you have to have communication around it. Delegate Wranglers is a brilliant example of that. You brought together because people want to talk, and it's that communication management that really, really helps.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll give you that £10 later.
There's a great question coming from Mark Bailey. Challenging slightly. I'm interested to hear how you answer it.
Good luck at this one, Alistair.
If Alistair was number 10's communication guru, what would he be telling those who give the daily press conferences to ensure they do?
Great question.
Literally, you're being put on the spot now.
No pressure.
Brilliant one, isn't it? Yeah. Well, how do I bridge this one?
There's no other questions to answer, so you just got to answer this one.
You know what? What do we say right at the beginning? Right. What we did is we talked about being clear communicators and being decisive, and I think that's really, really important. I think the one thing about it that I see about it is that, who's it that said you'd rather make a good decision today than an excellent decision tomorrow? I think there's nothing wrong with reeling back on what you do. You've got to take a stand. You've got to communicate it. And if you have to change it, then okay, you have to change it. I think what I'd be trying to do outside of these number 10 sort of 7-minute briefings with people in the public is try and get as much information out there at the moment that explains the reasoning behind it.
Yeah.
And actually being really proactive on that, because one of the things I do sympathize with the government on is I don't need to speak to a whole lot of people to do my job properly. They have to speak to everyone, and everyone's got an agenda, all 70 million of us. So how do we get information out to the right people at the right times? And one of the things, and that will help them do the jobs. Here's one of the things that I think about a lot is people talk about content. It's all about content.
Yeah.
But if you haven't got the distribution to get that content to the right people, then you might as well not be doing anything. So what they've got to look at is having really, really good content strategy, great, but also how am I going to hit the unemployed 22-year-old who's just come out of college trying to get a job? How am I going to hit the 80-year-old that is absolutely petrified about going out to get the shopping, the family of two, the broken family? How do I hit each of those people with a tailored message for them, or as tailored as I can get it? Because if they can't, then everyone's got a different agenda.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm guessing this is PR in general, though. Whether it's a government challenge or an event challenge, you're not going to get it right for everyone all of the time. You're never going to be in a situation where 100% of people that you're trying to communicate to turn around and say, "Yeah, you did that the right way. That's exactly what we wanted."
Exactly, and
it's just not going to happen.
All they ever, I think, if I was comms director, my thing is, did they understand why we did it?
Yeah.
If they understand why they did it, then I've won my battle, because I can't make them agree or disagree with it. You know, I can't. I can only tell you this is why we're doing it. I can, and like I say, you don't have to agree with me. All you need to do is understand why I'm doing these things. After that, the business decision is to be right. The communication decision is make sure everyone knows why you did things.
Avatar's asked a question, which he hasn't said it's PR specific, but I'm going to assume that it is. Can you suggest what we need to do in essence as an industry to win customer confidence back, especially with regards to help given from the government to small business owners, as they seem to have neglected us and our industry?
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, I'm going to give you a communications answer to probably not a communications question, right?
Yeah.
So my biggest thing in if I'm looking at confidence, I see clarity. That's what I see. Someone says we need to get some confidence back into a marketplace. Let's give them clarity. Let's give them direction. Let's talk to them. So there's lots of way we can do that. We can tell them about what we're doing. We can tell them about what we're not doing. We can tell them what we've done if we want to go there as well. But my thinking is being clear in terms of our messaging would be really, really help. Usually when people lose confidence is because you've done what? Again, I think I've got my I've got 3 strikes and I'm out for too much PR wanky words, basically. But
it's allowed. It's a whole show on PR. You get away with it.
You created a communications vacuum. If you don't say anything, they will fill it with their worst desire, and things like that. Your friends will fill it with confidence. Your enemies will fill it with attack, and the people in the middle will fill it with doubt.
Yeah.
Totally like to reiterate that. I think if you're, as a business owner, if you're going ahead and saying, even during these times, if you haven't got any customers or nothing's happening, but if you're constantly using social media to say, these are the steps we're taking, these are the things we're doing, and even if it looks like nobody's listening, they are. And when they look back on what you've been doing, they can see it. And I totally agree with what Alistair's saying. It's all about giving that confidence to them that you're actually taking action, you're doing something rather than doing nothing.
Well, actually, again, propping up some of my clients, some of the things they're saying is they want to write the history now. What they want is for someone to look back on what they did and go, wow, they handled that really well from the outset. None of them, actually, I'm very, very, very lucky to have, really amazing clients. None of them turn around and say, look, just stop. Let's wait and see what happens at the end of this, and then we'll start. They turned around and said, no, I want our customers and our stakeholders to see that this business did not hang around. It reacted
on the front foot.
Stay present. And from a communications perspective, that's brilliant. That gives me so much to work with.
Yeah, absolutely. Any more questions? Because I think we'll have to wrap it up in a second. Any more shout outs in the room there, Dom?
No more. I think we said hello to. Let me just flick back up to the top and see. It's not letting me go back up. I don't know why. I can't seem to scroll back
Me
past a
neither.
certain point.
Pesky Facebook.
Yeah.
There was one point that we were talking of just before we got on, which is this idea of humanity, wasn't it, Neil? That we talked about as
being human. Yeah,
and it goes back to the honesty, and I think it's been touched on by some of the questions which have been great. As this idea that I did a paper not so long ago for a very 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 large big American company, and what they were asking me about was how to get their leadership talking in a certain way. And I did a lot of research around this. And what we sort of surmised was that, the Steve Jobs era was sort of the last of the perfect CEO. And actually leadership of tomorrow, leadership of now beyond 2020 for the next decade is about being human and fallible and actually being okay with that. It's okay not to be okay. And the more leaderships talk about the fact that it's difficult at the moment, that's fine. Why wouldn't it be? The more leaders that I see some major FTSE leadership women talking about homeschooling whilst running a £15 million business. That's okay. They're showing their underbellies, and because of that, they're being human. And I think again, that's a massive commodity from a PR communications perspective. If your staff, if your customers, if your major, your millions of consumers around the world turn around and say, actually, the person that runs that company is actually deep at core, just like me. Yeah. They've still got to look after their kids who are screaming in the background. They've still got to run a business. They worry about things. They have mental health issues. They try and exercise. They try and balance. And every now and again, they fall flat on their asses. You know what? Good for them.
I'll tell you who's a really good example of that. The New Zealand Prime Minister. Ardern. She's just a regular. She comes across as very human and very normal, and I think she's amazing.
And really Forbes voted her as the most influential leader on the planet at the moment. So what do you need to know? So I think that idea of humanity is a massively important thing. I'd be, again, as we're all sort of waiting until we all come back to school, basically, I think I'd be looking at that. What's my business? What's my brand's humanity at the moment?
Well, it's really interesting because there's a huge crossover into marketing here, and we're live on Facebook Live right now, and we're live on Twitter, and we're live on YouTube, and we're live on LinkedIn. And one of the successes, or one of the reasons that the live platforms really founded by Facebook, I guess. One of the reasons for that success for brands has been that ability to connect with your audience on a much more human level than you can with a simple word or a simple picture. And we talk a lot to clients at the moment about that, being your real self on your social channels, like taking you to your audience, because people will connect with you. There's friends of mine run a coffee company, True Start Coffee, True Start Performance Coffee. I can't remember what it is.
Shameless plug.
No, but not for them as such. Although I don't have my big pot of True Start coffee here, and I've just got enough to last me a lifetime from them. No, but the point is that they're really good. Like they in all of their communications throughout this, they're talking about the fact that as a small business, they've had to shut their cafe. They've had to furlough a couple of employees. They've been their true, real selves in every communication, talking about the difficulties of raising 2 small children in a very small flat in Bristol. And then they've made it. They've made themselves very public, and it's their challenge has been opened up to everybody. And brands that are doing that are engaging far better with their audiences than those that are just sitting behind a photo and saying, look how perfect everything is, or the opposite, look how bad everything is.
And do you know what? What I'd add to that is, there is a genuine value in that, and I'm talking beyond the exposure, the links, things like that. I think there's a genuine value, because I think if you're close enough to that business, you will walk past 1 or 2 or even 3 coffee shops to get to theirs.
Absolutely.
I think that is amazing. You might even pay an extra 10p a coffee.
Yep.
If your whole community does that, there is thousands of pounds in just being a bit more of a human being.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the same. But this is the same for every business. That anyone that's watching right now, if you've got any kind of presence online, make use of the channels and the opportunity that you have to communicate with people, because as we've talked about, has been mentioned, and actually as people have become to understand over the last few years, particularly, that human empathetic communication has a greater value and far greater longevity than any picture or word that you can write.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. Well, Al, thank you so much for being a fantastic guest.
Not so bad.
And all the amazing work that you're doing. I know you're like a sounding board for me at times. I come and ask, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? He's an all round great guy. But Alistair, you've been really, really interesting, to get your take on it. And not only your take, but, traditional PR take, and your take on what's happening at the moment. It's been really fascinating.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed this. Thanks, Alistair.
Yeah, no worries, guys. Honestly, yeah, very, very much enjoyed it. I enjoyed the questions as well. Really interesting.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is we'll share that document that you kindly put together for us. In the wrap up, which will be online a couple of hours later, guys.
Yeah.
And also all your contact details and how you can look at Alistair's website and things like that as well. Thanks again, Al.
But for now, thank you. Thanks for joining, Sally.
Take care.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Excellent. I called him Ali right at the end. That's really bad. Alistair.
Ali.
Sorry, Al. So, another great show. Really glad we got to do that one. Really glad we got to do that. And there were a couple of comments coming in right at the end. We'll try and pick those up. Alistair is still listening and able to listen. There's a couple of things in there that I'd like you to pick up. Perhaps you can just reply direct to people and make your comments there.
Yeah, maybe you can reply to them, Alistair, on the group. Yeah. Anyway, the important question: how's the haircut?
Don't even go there. Actually, while we've been live, I've had a message from my daughter saying, "I've just seen you on camera. I'm cutting your hair tonight."
Oh, mine's shocking. Mine is shocking at the moment. But I'm waking up and mine's like kind of fluffy now.
just beyond doing anything practical with it. So I'm just going with the Lego man look.
Definitely getting the cap out next week. Definitely.
Yeah, right. I've actually just last week I messaged the guy that does all of my clothing and workwear and said I really need some caps. They should be here this week.
Well, listen, can I just do some more shameless plugging about next week?
Go on, plug.
Happy to say we've got Robert Kenwood from You Search and Select on next Tuesday. This is his second appearance on the show.
I know.
Yeah, backed by popular demand. And he's going to be talking about giving us basically a CV masterclass, which will be amazing, and how to make it into a real page turner. So I love that.
I think this is a really interesting time to be doing this because, and we didn't touch on this in the show just now, but we said just in the few moments before we were going live that already I think we're all starting to see signs that things are moving again. As a small business, I've had 4 or 5 inquiries either through my website or direct to me since Thursday last week, which I mean that's more in 3-4 days than I've had in 3-4 months actually. So we are starting to see signs, and I think the timing of bringing Robert back on next week to do this CV masterclass is absolutely perfect.
We're seeing it on the group as well in terms of not only the inquiries coming in, the amount of because we get to see insights of what the kind of traffic is on the group. So we're seeing that, and then we're also seeing people wanting to start interact with us, doing some of the getting to know features and things like that. So everything's kind of ramping up. I'm not saying we're kind of we're back, but there's certainly the green shoots are definitely on the way.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's next Thursday at
Tuesday.
Oh God, next. It's not like I don't know.
No. Next Tuesday, 1:30. And then the following week, I'm really delighted to have Paul Black from London Convention Bureau on to tell us how, this has affected London, and what they're doing to kind of recover from it. So that's going to be a really interesting show. Guys, if you want to, you can check on the calendar feature that's on the left-hand side of Facebook. You can actually register yourself for those events, so it'll remind you, and it's really helpful to us to know how many people are coming and things like that. And just a reminder, you can catch all of our shows on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and
graphic
click
on the
the
screen now, please.
Button.
Oh, graphic on! I can't even work out where it is, but graphics on the screen somewhere in the middle between us.
was so slick. So slick. It's unbelievable.
And we
Anyway.
we need to stop doing this. This happened last week as well, but we are wearing almost exactly the same color shirt, and this really wasn't planned in advance. We don't have a clothing consultation in advance.
Right. Oh yes. So anyway, one final plug is for the lockdown social. Can't wait for you all to see you all on that. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be giving you some more information, about anything you might need to do in advance or not, or whether you just turn up. So look out for an email from us.
Yep.
And yeah, and if you're not registered, make sure you register. The details are on the group, so make sure you register now.
They are indeed. So that is this Thursday at 7:00.
Yes.
Details in the group and details in the wrap up later as well. I saw Di already posted a link to it. And then we will be back next Tuesday, 1:30, with Rob Kenwood talking and discussing a CV masterclass, which I'm hoping will prepare everyone for the return of the events industry as we start to see what Neil just accurately described as the green shoots appearing.
Yes, definitely. Thanks
Excellent.
again, Dom.
Thank you very much, everybody. We will see you next Tuesday, 1:30, if you're not on the lockdown social. But thanks for joining us. We'll see you very soon. Bye-bye.